Today we're going to paint Dark Angel Space Marines. First off, I started off with a black undercoat, and the next coat was Caliban green. So the Caliban green is dried. We're using this Cabalite green, and this one we want to cover all the edges, whether it be the edges at the bottom or edges at the top. Next coat after that is Warpstone green. This time round, however, we're not trying to cover all the edges. We're just trying to pick out areas where we think the light would bounce. So for example, the top here, and areas like the elbows are only painted so far down rather than going all the way down. Areas like this where you get these little cracks put into the armour. It can be a bit of a pain to try and paint the lines on both sides. So what I suggest is instead paint the whole thing, and then when you get to the stage we're about to cover next, it will fill into the crack and it makes it a lot easier as a way of painting. So this time we've applied this paint, cover the entire miniature. It will fall into the recesses, so areas like this it should fall into the recess and it will give you that definition. The last coat for the green is White Scar, and again you're trying to pick out edges, and what you want to try and do with the White Scar is to make it look like you're catching the edges where the light would bounce off the miniature. You may have noticed on this side the knee pad, I've not painted it, but the reason why is for the Dark Angels the knee pad is what they use to indicate what part of the army they belong to, so that would end up a completely different colour from the green. For the silver areas, first Leadbelcher was applied, second Null Oil, and third we're going to use Rune Fang. When I painted the green I applied all but the very last of the highlights, so the last one being the white, so I applied all the last of the highlights, then I applied the wash. The reason for this is I want to keep the green dark, and when I'm applying the wash it helps to darken down the highlights a bit and makes the colours blend in somewhat. Where with the silver I'm doing it the opposite way around. I'm applying the first coat of the colour, then I'm applying the wash to darken it down, and then I'm applying the highlights. The reason why I'm doing it this way around is for the silver areas I want to catch out the edges and make them a lot brighter, where with the green areas I'm trying to keep the green dark, so I'm trying to keep the silver a light colour but the green a dark colour. So I'm only trying to catch the tops and the top of these as well. I'm not catching the under part because light comes downwards. Last coat for the silver, Necron compound. I'm applying it in the same areas just to make it that little bit brighter still. In this part of the video we've jumped forward a bit. The reason why is some things are covered in other videos I've done. So for example, the symbol on the chest armour, I've done a video covering painting light bone. Doing things like the checkers, I've also done a video covering that, how to paint checkers. The symbol on the shoulder pad on this side and the original arrow on this side were initially painted with Corax white. The arrow on this side, the weapon casing, have then been painted with a light red. However, I'm using an old red here, but that gives you the colour. Next for the weapon casing, we're using Visor Rust just to catch the edge. I will say, although this is supposed to be a dry paint though, it doesn't really work like dry paint, it works more like a normal paint, so you'd have to be a bit more careful catching the edges than you would a normal dry paint. Now all the edges around the weapon casing have been finished. And a little symbol here, painted it with Rhinoxide first, and I've also, this little piece on the edge, painted that with the Rhinoxide. Next with Auric Gold. Last few pieces here, after the gold has dried, I've put Agrax Earthshade, and I just did a light wash over the gold. I've applied Leadbelcher silver onto this little piece here. That piece there, I apply this paint to give it a bit of a copper look. So now all I need to do is paint the eyes and the miniature will be finished. A few extra bits for these miniatures. First off, the cloth, I've covered it in the Dark Angel Space Marine Scouts, so you can watch that video to see how I make the cloth that colour. Next, there's these two little buttons on the back here. The green one was first painted with Space Wolf Grey, and afterwards a wash of green was applied. For the red one, Ushabti bone was applied first, and then a red wash was applied. When you're applying the washes though, I suggest you leave the miniatures lying down while they dry, and then afterwards a varnish was applied, hopefully to give it a little bit of a shininess. Next, these three parts here were painted with a dark red as opposed to the red that was used for the weapons. Next, Agrax Earthshade. This part and this part I'm going to leave them as they are, but we'll use the Agvax on the rope just to give it a little bit of darkness, a bit of a contrast. Now the only thing left to do on these miniatures is to paint the faces and they'll be finished. If you like the video, remember to like, share and click on the button on the lower right hand side to subscribe.